Okay, here we go. So we're recording, and let's do it. Okay, so I expect people will be coming in, but it doesn't matter. Yes, now we're getting loads of people coming in. There you go. All right then. Anyway, I think there are loads of people now. Loads of people. All right. Good. No problem. Shall I wait a little bit then? Let's try. Let's try and get started. Anyway, we're recording anyway, so every time I start, people come in. So we'll see if we can get started. I'm just going to go as usual. I'm going to look at the stuff from last week. Just review the quiz. So let me just go into screen share here. And here is last week's actual quiz. You should be able to see that. And here's the quiz. There's quite a few people doing this, which is like, just, I suppose, not putting anything in and then seeing the results and then doing it again, get it all correct. I mean, okay, I guess it's all right. I'm not going to worry about it yet. But later I might actually require mail addresses so I can check who's doing that. Yeah, so I don't mind people doing this, but I don't particularly like it either. And later, as we start thinking about grades and things like that, I might actually require a mail address. So if you do that, I'll be able to see your mail address. So basically, I'd rather you didn't do this personally. Yeah. At the moment, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I want people to participate. So, I don't want to complain about that too much, but I don't particularly like people doing that. Anyway, there's that. And I'll just scroll through this slowly so you can see. Let me just move this up a little bit. I hope you can see this anyway. People doing it twice, got no problem with that. You do it twice. I mean, if you can do it a few times, do it. Try first time, get a result. And so I can see what you did. It doesn't matter, right? Perfectly happy with that. Anyway, you are going through this. And I'll just scroll through that so you can see that there's no problem. Presumably you'll be able to see that you'll be able to see that you're people coming in, of course. That your quiz went through, no problem. If you want to do it twice, do it twice. Yeah, put your name in twice. I'd prefer you did that. Just try it. Okay. What's happening there? Okay, that's that. Anyway, so you got the idea. And as I say, I prefer if you didn't do this, right? Just putting in nothing there, right? I don't like that very much. So, if people keep doing that, then I'm going to have to require a mail address or something. I don't really want to do that. But anyway, thinking about it. But we will be having a proper, test kind of thing later. So it's not going to matter that much. Okay, let me just go in here. A link to today's quiz doesn't work, so can you please check it? Okay, I think the quiz should be up now. It's 9:15. Do you want to check that, or shall I check it? I could check it actually, for that matter. Let me just go in. It should be 9:15. Let me go back into screen share. I almost messed that up then. Get rid of that. Don't need that. Where is it? Oh, I know. Web class. There we go. And there's the quiz, and it should be up. Yes. Yeah. So I think there's no problem. That should be up now. Okay. So I think everybody's okay with that. Oops, somebody come in. And we got 56 people in, so that sounds good to me. So I don't think there's a problem. No, I think it's like 9:15 is where the quiz opens up, right? Just there's no particular reason to do that, but I just do it. So it should have opened about 2 minutes ago. So if you couldn't open it before, you should be able to open it now. Yeah. So quiz should be open now. If there is a problem with that, please let me know. All right then. So let me go back in. I'm going to have a quick look at the quiz from last week, and this is this week's. I'm going to close. No, I won't. I'll leave that there for a second. That is. I know. Hang on. This is okay. Here we are. So this is last week's stuff. I'll just briefly go through this as usual. The magic word was Koko. Remember Koko, Koko, was the gorilla that learned lots of sign language and could respond to words. Probably not grammar, but it was communicating. Koko, Koko. You get lots of points for that. Bibbidi bobbidi boo is not right. Okay, so be careful. 3 kinds, yes, those are all right. Many kinds, not really. I'm not going to accept that. 3 kinds of sign are index, icon, and symbol. I'm going to go over this quite a lot, right, and review this quite regularly. I think it's quite important to think about the basics of how we communicate. We're using words, and words are symbols. Generally, you can say that. Okay, and a symbol is a sign that is decided in culture. Yes, everybody's got that right, just about. So meaning, not really. No, a smiley face is an icon. Very good. Yes. Symbol, not really. I'm not going to accept that. You could say that. Maybe a symbol, saying you can a symbol of happiness, for example, or friendliness. Yeah. Maybe it's become a symbol, so maybe I should consider that, but I'm not going to accept that because it's something that looks like something, right? It's an icon first. A word is a symbol, yes. Be careful with the spelling. Careless miss. And more iconic, yes. There's some symbols, such as this one, are more iconic than others. I can't remember what that was now, actually. Not ironic, iconic. Ironic and iconic is close, but there's a difference. Be careful with that. Okay. Grammar gives us information about how words fit together, put together. We put words together, I suppose, but how words themselves fit together. Putting together, no, not going to accept that. Organize, me, no, not really. Somehow human beings just know that the ball is a noun phrase. Just understand. Yeah, I don't know if they understand really particularly, because I didn't even know what a noun phrase was until I was quite old, I suppose. So I don't know if we understand it, but somehow we know, right? We feel it, I suppose you could say. Not really these others. Words often feature in, not really Hindu myths. Hindu myths is an example, right? Is an example of the myths, but they're not always Hindu myths, right? Creation myths, creation mythology, ancient myths. Yes, I suppose that's not a bad answer, actually. Should I accept that? Ancient. Maybe I should. I don't know. Are they always ancient myths? Ancient. I'll think about that. I'm not decided. Might change that. Okay, but don't like the others. The first one's words in the Bible. In the beginning was the word, yes. It's kind of interesting, don't you think? That you kind of create things with words. Burr, yes, that was a Hindu word, right? And the beginning was the word, but the actual Bible doesn't have that. This is a Hindu myth word. In the beginning was the Bible, not really. Words often feature in magic spells. Yes, Harry Potter. In magic spell, you can't really say that, right? In a magic spell, the magic spell, but spells. Okay. Magic words. I suppose that's true, but I'm looking for spells in particular here. Patronum. Yeah, you get the idea, but it's not right. Coco is the name of a famous gorilla. Yes. Okay. Famous ape. Yes. Gorilla is spelled wrongly there. You're not going to have it. Chimpanzee is no. All right. It's gorilla and chimpanzees are not the same. The Declaration of Independence creates a principle of equality. Yes. Okay. I like it. A principle of independence. Yeah, I don't think that's right. It's not a principle of independence. They became independent from England, UK, basically. Not a UK at the time, but they became independent from the control of the King of England. But the principle that they created was one of equality. I'm only going to accept that. I hereby name this ship the Queen Elizabeth. This creates a name, yes. Creates a symbol, not really. A noun. Could be a noun. I suppose noun isn't bad, but I'm not going to accept that. Name. I hereby declare this meeting open. This creates a situation, yes. Sign, no, not really. So in other words, you can create names for things, or you can create situations by using words. That's kind of important. That's the only ones I'm going to accept. Solution is not correct. The phonological information for a word is its sound. Yes. None of the others. The grammatical category of the word horse is noun. Yeah, I just want to keep you reviewing these things a little bit. The valency of a word is a thing that it needs. Yes, very good. Okay, that's probably the most difficult one. Valency in chemistry, for example, things fit together because they need electrons, or they need to lose electrons in some cases. So the valency of a word is the thing that it needs or wants. So for example, you could say a verb like walks needs a subject, noun. Okay then. And no, okay. Both pictures and words have form and meaning, but only words have grammar. That's right, yes. Be careful of the spelling. Syntax is also okay. Only words have sound. Yeah, I suppose that's true. But I'm not going to accept that because I'm really talking about grammar here. However, we can use words with or without grammar. Yes. Not universal grammar at this point. Chomsky says that humans need grammar before they could make real pictures. That's right, in art. Yeah, he did say that. Yeah. Before they could make real thinking, it's a bit ungrammatical. I don't like that, although it's kind of true. He does say that. He says that grammar comes first, and then thinking comes next, which is, an idea. He says that language, the purpose of language isn't communication, first of all. Yeah, it's actually thinking, which is a bit of a strange thing to say, but that's what he says. And he says that you need grammar before you have pictures and art. We'll think about that today, actually. Chomsky said that universal grammar was built into the brains of human beings before the first word. That's right. And I don't know if you sort of accept that, really. And think about it. You've got to have universal grammar before the first word. Do you think that's true? Excuse me. Oh, my God. Sorry. Yeah, do you need universal grammar before you have the first word? That's a kind of very brave claim, if you ask me. Anyway, This one here gives phonological information, a bit of review, of course. She, very good. Nice. Yes, that's she. Fee, no, it's not. And the category of the word she is noun. Pronoun, yeah, I'm going to stay away from that stuff. Yeah, pronoun, subject, I'm going to go noun. The word she does, because I mean, like, you know, not really category of pronoun. It is in a way, I suppose. Maybe I should change that. Because you're not wrong, are you? Pronoun and subject. Maybe I should allow that. I'll have a look now in a second. The word she does not need a determiner. I'm only going to accept that. Be careful. The word she has nominative case. Yes. If a word has nominative case, it must appear as a subject. Yes. Okay, good. These are all reviewed situations. This is sleeps, of course. I've done it wrong. That's a mistake. 32, I better change that. It's got too many. 32. Sleeps. Okay, be careful with that. Yes. Although this is actually looks like it's a mistake. Messed it up. Slips is not correct. So be careful with that. The category of the word sleeps is verb. Yes. I'm only going to accept that. The subject of sleeps must have a nominative case. Yes. Good, good, good. Accusative is not correct. It's the object has accusative case. Active present case, no. The subject of sleeps must be a third person singular. Yes. These are just review things, really, to get you, yeah. Get you thinking, we've done the same thing again here. Is that wrong? 36, I better change that. It's come up in a funny way. Don't know if it's a problem. Sees gives the following information. The word we spell sees, that's right. And the category of the word sees is verb. Good. No problem. A verb, yes, but I don't like two words. Don't do that, please. One word or answers only. The subject of sees must be a noun with nominative case. Good. I want you to think about it. It is important to be able to use these expressions. So I'll be reviewing these things as we go. The subject of sees must be third person singular. Yes. Third person singular. Everybody gets that. No problem. The object of sees must have accusative case. Yes. Accusative. And the category of the word under is preposition. Pronoun, no. Prescription, proposition, no. The category of the word big is adjective. Yes. Noun, no. The category of the word the is the determiner. Article. Yeah, I want to discourage this, actually, because I want to talk about determiners and specifiers. Articles is a slightly more specialized idea. Like you have the definite article and the indefinite article. But the categories here, the syntactic categories we're dealing with are going to be determiner or specifier. And I'm accepting specifier. Nobody said it. Whoops, this is updating for some reason. I think maybe somebody's doing it now. No problem. But I've lost where I was. Okay, let's go back. It's down here somewhere. Where was I? I can't remember where I was. 40 something, wasn't it? Probably around here. Okay, and actually that's finished, is it? That's that. Okay, fair enough. No problem. See if I can get out of here. Probably going to struggle. That's that. I think I can change that now, can I? Or maybe I can't. Okay. Let's go back in here. It's probably easiest. And I think I might try to change some of these a little bit. Here's the people coming in. Where are we? 20, that's there. Okay, let me just go back in. I'm going to have a look at 13. 13. Ancient. I mean, ancient. I suppose they are ancient. I don't think I'll accept it. Right? It's not bad, is it? Ancient myths. Get the idea. But although in a way, I'm like hoping that you get the idea. This creation. You create things with words, right? 28. Where are we? The category word she is noun, pronoun, and subject. I'm not going to accept it. I want you to use noun and things like that. So I'm not going to change that. Sleeps. Yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it? What's happened here? Sleeps. I can't get it. Let's make it like that. I don't know why that's gone like that. Sleeps. I still messing it up. Look. Sleeps. Okay. So that's. I still got it wrong. Can't see. Sleeps. That's right, isn't it? Okay. This should be okay. And then 36, I think I have the same problem. Sees. For some reason, something's got messed up there. Let's do it like this. Sees. Okay, get the idea. Okay, and that's all I'm going to change, I think. I don't think I'll change the rest of it. Okay, then. Right then. So let me just go out here. Could you be open now? Yes, so people can open, and I don't think we have any problems so far. We've got about 60 people in, which sounds good to me. This is recording. You'll be able to check it all out later. Okay, then, guys, let's get started seriously with today's stuff. Let me move that down there for a moment and get this maybe down here. And let me just open this. Now, we've touched on some issues here relating to language and particularly about meaning. And I want to sort of review some of that stuff. So this should be quite easy, right? But it should be useful, I think. I'm really looking at the question of how did language begin? We mentioned last week that Chomsky says that for some reason we get universal grammar, whatever that is, all these funny rules of grammar pop into our heads about 200,000 years ago. Excuse me. And then after that, we can do art and language and all the things like that. That's one possibility, I suppose. Maybe there's other possibilities. Let's think about how language began. I suppose you have to say what you mean by language. Let's think about what the language difference is first of all. Okay? Our language is basically all the same. Okay, are English and Japanese the same, for example? Well, one thing they're not the same is that English is subject, verb, object, order. I saw the cat, that kind of thing. And the Japanese is subject, object, verb. So, watashi wa neko mita, that sort of thing, right? So you've got the order, the basic order is different. And then in some languages, even you get very strange, or it seems very strange, not strange to them, it's normal to them, but it's strange to us, perhaps, where you even get things like this. Okay, this is past, nahita, whatever that is, I don't know how you say it. And then ni voa lavo, right? And ni akoho, whatever. I don't know how you say that, right? No idea. But that exists apparently. This is saw, and the rat, the chicken, that shouldn't be capital, right? But this actually means the chicken saw the rat. Oops. The chicken saw the rat. So you got saw as the verb, then you got the rat, yeah, which is the object, yeah, and then you get the subject over here at the end, right? So that's seems a bit strange to us, right? Why, it can be in pretty much any order. It doesn't make any difference. Yeah. We were talking about computer languages and things like that, and the way that you put the order, the objects in those structures. But it seems like in human language, the things can appear pretty much anywhere. Right? There's no particular rule. So languages, it seems, are very, 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 very different. And this language is the Malagasy language, the language of Madagascar in East Africa. And I'll be touching on that later. So are Japanese and English basically the same? Well, no. I mean, Japanese lacks some determiners or specifiers, the and a. And these are kind of difficult for Japanese people to learn, it seems to me, right? Even very good speakers of English struggle with this even all their lives. So, for example, professors in this university who are very, very good English, who have better English than many native speakers, for example, can express themselves better than many native speakers, probably most native speakers. They still have problems with the and right? Which is interesting, I think. And also, you see, English kind of moves question words. So we get things like this: "What did you buy?" Yeah. Whereas Japanese doesn't do this. Right? You don't have this movement. You bought what? You bought a book. You bought what? What did you buy? So the question word moves in a funny way to the beginning of a sentence. Japanese doesn't. And also, Japanese doesn't have so many plural forms like dogs and cats, books. English needs these plural forms all the time, and Japanese doesn't really do that. And sometimes that causes problems for speakers of English. Now, it's like the interesting thing, I think, from the perspective of teachers, right? If you're interested in being an English teacher, for example, many of you are, I would say this one determines that, and this causes big problems, right? Very often, all people's lives, they never get it right? They never really learn it. So, even very good speakers never learn this, right? It's really difficult. Moving question words, not so difficult. Maybe does cause problems sometimes, but not such a big problem, I think, for Japanese speakers. And then the plural forms, for example, plural forms causes a few problems, but maybe not such a big problem. And agreement, she lives here, he sees the dog, that kind of thing, agreement forms. Yeah, I guess it does cause a problem because it is different, but not such a big problem. I think this one, the and is the biggest problem. Okay, so these are different. Okay, these are all different between English and Japanese. But some cause much bigger problems than others, right? And then if you think about this again, right? If you think about word order again, English is SVO, and Japanese is SOV. Well, this is a big difference, but I don't think Japanese speakers of English ever make a mistake about this. So Japanese people don't say, for example, the cat saw, right? I mean, they never do that. I've never heard anybody make that mistake, which is a sort of interesting idea, I think, right? So, you'd think word order would be a big deal for learners of a language. And these differences do kind of show up as problems. They cause a few problems in these cases, and these cases, very big problems. But word order, it seems, is no problem at all. So why is that? But anyway, these are language differences between languages, and here's Chomsky. He says that they're not deep. They're not deep differences. They're superficial, surface differences. Basically, deep down, languages are all the same, and they all have this universal grammar, and languages are basically all the same. Now, that's what Chomsky says. I don't know what you think. Right? You can think whatever you want. Deep down, languages are all the same. And I think maybe they are in a way, but maybe not the way he thinks. Anyway, universal grammar, that's Chomsky's idea. All languages are all the same, basically. They all follow the same basic rules, and those differences are just surface. Are all languages the same? That's the question. You don't have to believe that, as I say. Right? It's up to you. I think, there are much bigger differences between languages than we've considered. And we'll talk about that in a second. You can believe what you want, right? And you can disagree. Now, this is a disagreement here between Chomsky, right, in his younger days. And this guy here is Dan Everett. And they've got this big disagreement, which I think relates to language in a very deep way and to teaching, for example. So let's have a think about what these disagreements are. Okay, so here's Dan Everett, right? This is an interesting story, I think. Dan Everett, he's Dan, call him Dan, okay? Easy to remember. Now, he's a linguist, right? He studies language. And he used to be a Christian. Okay, so he was a Christian. He isn't a Christian anymore, right? He was a missionary, actually, about 40 years ago. Yeah, so he is about, I don't know if that's 40 years ago, but he was working as a missionary about 40 years ago because he was Christian. And he went to the Amazon. You know where the Amazon is. Amazon's basically Brazil, right? And he lived with this tribe, the Piraha tribe. Piraha or something like that, right? Don't know how you say it really, but it's Piraha or something. Pirahang or something like that. I don't know how you say that. Pirahang, maybe. Pirahang or something like that. And so he lived with these guys, right, for a long time, actually. And he wrote this book, Don't Sleep, There Are Snakes. It's a really good book. If you can find the Japanese translation in the library, I think, I recommend it. It's very good fun. And so he was basically deep in the Amazon jungles of Brazil. The Amazon jungles of Brazil. And so he was like around here, I think. Yeah. Just south of the Amazon, really deep in the jungle. So that's where the Pirahan tribe live. And so he went there because he wanted to explain Christianity to the Pirahan people. And so his basic idea was to translate the Bible into Pirahan. Right? If you can translate the Bible into Pirahan, then you can make the people Christian. Yeah, so he needed to study the language of the Pirahan people to do that. Excuse me. And so he's telling them they'll go to heaven when they die, right? That's the idea. Right? Heaven, go to heaven. Okay, it's that kind of thing. And so anyway, he studies the Pirahan language very seriously, and he's good. He's very good at learning languages. A lot of these missionaries are very, very, very good at learning languages. A lot of the very good speakers of Japanese in this country, for example, they come from that kind of missionary background. And he discovered it's like this really strange language, right? We mentioned like you got these verb, object, subject languages, which is pretty strange to us. Seems a bit, so why would you do that, right? But that's kind of nothing, compared to the Pirahan language, which is kind of really strange, it seems. And I think most people agree that there is something very, very strange about it. Now let's talk about that. First of all, it's got very few sounds. Yeah, it's only got like about 11 sounds in the language, right? So compared to Japanese has far more, and then English has far more, right? Loads and loads of sounds, sprinkler and blah, 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 things like that, right? So English has loads of sounds, not the most of any languages in the world, but more than Japanese, I think. And Pirahan language has very few sounds, only about 11 sounds. And it has tones, high and low. So high and low sounds, but not very low. Two tones, high and low, but only very few sounds. I don't know if you've ever tried studying languages with tones, like Chinese and Thai and languages like that. Incredibly difficult. I can't do it. I have no idea. Thinking about sounds, if you get like Arabic has lots of sounds like that. And again, I can't hear that. It causes all kinds of problems. Tones, high and low. So and also it's a very different culture, right? And in the case of culture, difference usually equals difficult, it seems. So he kind of thought they were very strange, and they thought he was very strange, because they're very different cultures. Although Dan says this is good, right? To have differences, big differences, is a good idea, because it's a chance to learn. All right, he says that they're very, very different people, very different culture. That's good because you learn more from people who are very different from you. Yeah, you learn more from people who their language is very different from you. It's all new. Everything's new. Yeah, it's a very unusual language. It's a very new language. Tone is very important. And so, for example, they hum words. Humming. And they also whistle. Right? They're whistling words all over the place. They're hunting in the jungle, for example. And sometimes you might want to hum a word, or maybe whistle a word, whistle sounds, whistle sentences, right, to communicate. So they do that. We don't really do that in English, right? Nobody really hums words seriously. Maybe it's a joke, but not really seriously. Whereas they do this on a regular basis. And also they don't combine sentences like we do, right? And this became a big argument in linguistics. I don't know if am I brave enough to try to do this? I'm going to try. Okay, I see what happens. I'm sure I'm going to lose control of my thing. But so say, for example, you have a sentence like this, right? And you have a subject over here. I say, for example, it's I, right? The noun phrase over here, I. Then you get, I say, a verb phrase here. Okay, let's make this a verb phrase. And then this would be something like think. Yeah, there's a verb, think. Oops. Okay, and then you get something down here, which is another subject. Yeah, and then you can basically make I think that, you think that, she thinks that, he thinks that, we think that, they believe that, they thought, and so on. You can just go on forever, right? So you can keep applying the same rule again and again and again, and basically keep going on forever. And basically he found that the Pirahan language doesn't do this. You cannot do this in the Pirahan language. And what I can't do now is use my, oops. Okay, there we are. It's weird. So I don't know why it does that. So basically you have this kind of thing like that. You can't do that. You cannot do that in the Pirahan language. It doesn't allow you to stick these sentences inside a sentence inside a sentence. And that became a big deal because Chomsky says that merge, right, putting things together, I have an apple, I have a pen, apple pen, merging things, putting them together, and then recursion, which is basically just do the same thing again, Psyche said, right, recursion. Right? Chomsky says that's a big deal, and there's Dan saying, well, listen, this language doesn't do that. You can't do that in this language, right? So it's like your idea about merge and recursion being universal grammar, right, doesn't work because this language doesn't allow it, right? It's kind of weird, right? It's a very strange language. Anyway, doesn't matter. We'll probably go over that later. And all right. So they don't combine sentences like we do. And they also don't have numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't have that, right? They just don't have numbers. And I think everybody accepts this now, that they didn't have numbers. So for example, they can say few and many, right? So they know, right? They can see that something has a certain number, and they can see something has a different number, and they can compare those numbers. They can say that's few, that's many, that's a lot, that sort of thing. but they can't say, I have 1 pen or 2 pens or 3 pens. They just don't have it. Which is kind of surprising, right? No numbers. I mean, think about that. They don't have numbers. I mean, it just seems like, what? And it seems that, well, they just don't need numbers, right? In their culture, they don't need numbers, and they've never developed that system. Yeah, they're hunting, gathering in the jungle. They don't need numbers, and nobody's interested. They can see that this is more than that, right? This is less than that. That's all they care about, and they don't care about numbers. Just not interested. Anyway, it's a different way of thinking. It seems. They seem like to be very, very different. And also, they don't like talking about the distant past or the future. Yeah, just don't like talking about it. They don't like talking about that evidence. Right? It's like, how do you know? Right? How do you know? And Dan was a missionary, of course, right? Like these guys. And he asked, "Who created the world?" Right? He's saying, "Who created? Who do you think? Who created the world?" And before there were trees, who made the trees? So he's asking these questions. And they ask, "What were you there when there were no trees?" Right? Do you know there were no trees at some point? Did you see it? And he's getting, no. Right? And so, why are you talking about things that you didn't see? Right? So culturally, for their cultures, they just don't do that. And they kind of say, well, what about who made the trees? Who made, when there were no trees, before there were trees, how did, what happened? They say, well, hang on, were you there? Did you see that? And he's going, no. So he's saying, well, shut up. Why are you talking about it if you didn't see it, right? Shut up. And so anyway, that's their culture, right? So he was kind of shocked, right, about this. I mean, you didn't attempt to tell him about Jesus, right? Oh, Jesus did this, Jesus that. And so he said, hang on, did you meet Jesus? Did you actually see Jesus? And did you see God? This God you're talking about? Talk about God all the time. Did you see God? And he said, well, Jesus lived a long time ago, And said, well, okay, so nobody saw him, right? So shut up, right? Why are you telling us? Why are you telling us about this stuff? You never saw it. Be quiet, right? Why are you telling us about Jesus and God and all who created the trees and mountains, all this rubbish, right? And so anyway, they just don't have God, right? They just don't have that idea of numbers. They don't have God. They just don't bother with it. It's just a waste of time, as far as they're concerned. Not interested. They just don't need it. Right? So in their culture, they don't need things, so they just don't have it. Right? And it seems some kind of grammar, they don't need it, so they just don't have it. Numbers, they don't need it, they don't have it. God, they don't need it, they don't have it. Right? Just not interested. They can think about the future and the past. They can see that something is more or less than other things. They're able to get to think about those things, but they just prefer not to. Right? It's not really interested. And they have no fear of death. Yeah, they're not worried, right, about going to heaven and hell. They're not. This doesn't matter. They didn't need God. So this made Dan's life very difficult, right? Because he's trying to make them be afraid of what happens when they die. Think about God and Jesus, and they're just not interested. And they seem very, very happy people, generally speaking. And they got this idea that you just do your best and don't tell people what to do, right? Which seems like a very good philosophy, right? Do your best, don't tell people what to do. So they didn't change, right? They just carried on. They never, not interested in Christianity at all, right? They never changed. But Dan became an atheist, right? He started to lose his belief in Christianity. He gave up, right? He gave up on being a Christian, gave up on being a missionary, became an atheist. So it's kind of, ironic. And he became a linguist, right? He started studying language instead. And he also started studying the, history of people, the development of people, anthropology, trying to understand these guys. And, he got lots of new information. And his advice is that, find people very different from you, and you learn more from differences. I think that's probably true. I'd say, I've lived in Japan. It's a very different culture. I think I learned more from being here than if I stayed in the UK, for example. You learn more from differences. So how did language begin is the question, right? So Dan says language is a technology. It's a technology that we invented at some point. So when did that happen? And he thinks it's the greatest technological invention of all time. And he thinks we invented it something like 2 million years ago. Right? 2 million years. Now, Chomsky says 200,000 years. Dan says 2 million years. I think probably more than 2 million years ago. It'd have to be quite a bit more than 2 million years ago for this to make sense. But anyway, think about this. So he says they invented it 2 million years ago. And he says it was invented by Homo erectus. Now then, magic word time. The magic word is erectus. 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 That's the magic word. Not Homo. Erectus. Erectus. Just that. Just that is the magic word. Okay, that's the magic word. Erectus. Oops. And so, anyway, so Dan says he thinks Homo erectus invented words. I think maybe before these guys, actually, personally. Yeah. Like this is 2 million years. I think it's probably before that. But anyway, this is what Dan says. Chomsky says 200,000 years, right? Just give you an idea of this, actually, if I can find my pen. So Chomsky says language began about 200,000 years ago. And then Dan Everett says 2 million years ago. Now, I would say probably more than 2 million years ago. Yeah, to be perfectly honest. I think, oops, what's happening here? I've lost my pen again. Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. It's a bit strange there. I think probably more than 2 million years, right? But anyway, that's the basic difference there. Let me just get rid of that. And, oops. So Homo erectus. Erectus, the magic word. They lived on Earth for nearly 2 million years, right? Now, we have lived on Earth for about 200,000 years, 300,000 years, something like that. Very short time. These guys were living on Earth for, 2 million years. A long time. And we've got lots of, evidence about their existence. And this gives you an idea. Here's modern Homo sapiens, us. Right? We are. You and me. We are modern Homo sapiens. And you can see these kind of older people, let's say people, and the kind of very early Homo sapiens starting to develop here. And around that time, you really got Homo erectus. There's the magic word erectus. Yeah. So you're talking about a long way back. So these guys were living for about 2 million years, a long time. Yeah. And here's us. We've been here for about 200 years, 200,000 years, a bit more, right? So there's Homo erectus, 2 million. They were on the Earth 2 million years ago. We're only on the Earth for about, 200,000 years ago. So we're very, very short time. Now, if you look at these people, right, you can see that the us is us. We're standing up straight, right? We're standing up straight. We're walking around. We can run around and things like that. Well, Homo erectus also could, right? They were kind of standing up straight, right? They're about the same size as us. Yeah, not so different, kind of becoming kind of human. So here's 2 million years ago. It's a long time, right? Period of 2 million years, these guys. Yeah. 2 million years. Think about it, it's a long time, right? We are only 200,000, 300,000, say. Now they have fairly big brains, right? So they're not so different from us, actually. It's like the brains are about 75% of our brain size. Yeah, and you think, well, how did that happen, right? Got quite big brains, and they're about the same height as us. They're not so different. They're a bit smaller, right? It seems, but they're about the same height as us. So they could go into Uniqlo or something like that, right, and get clothes in Uniqlo, and they would probably fit them, right? They're kind of the same shape as us, right? You know, standing up straight, 2 legs. They're not gorillas, right? They're not gorilla people, right? They're not monkey people. They're really like humans. And they could also, like us, they could run long distances. They could probably doing hunting, running after animals to hunt them. They're probably really good. Just their body shape, we think they could probably run long distances. They're chasing animals and stuff like that. And they're making stone tools, for example, right? And you look at these and you think, well, could these guys speak? Did they have maybe a few words? I think some of these tools are really pretty, right? Kind of look really, you have to be quite clever to make I couldn't do that. And you think, well, okay, maybe these guys are quite intelligent. Maybe they had words here, a few words, maybe 1 or 2 words. Doesn't seem impossible. And they also made spears from wood, right? They have evidence of this. They were making spears, so they were chasing after animals, killing their animals and stuff like that. So they're killing like large animals that lived around them. They're pretty clever and brave people. Also, it seems maybe they had art, right, of some kind. You're talking about like 2 million years ago, right? They probably had some kind of form of art. They found this where the Homo erectus people were living. They think it was some kind of goddess or something. Yeah, maybe. Looks like something is an icon, right? Looks like a person, maybe, that kind of thing, right? So it's possible. They made these marks on shells, they think, right? Seems like there's some evidence for this. And also it seems they must have made boats, right? So they're making boats and ships. Not big ones, I suppose, but little ones, but they were traveling to other places. So they must have had an imagination, right? They're thinking, we're going to travel to this other place. We're going to go to this other place. So you kind of need an imagination to do that. You make a boat. You got a plan, right? So, and they went all over the place, right? They went all over the world, these people. The only problem they had, which is different from us, right? The big difference between Homo erectus and us. I remember bodies are kind of similar, standing up straight, running around. They look similar shape to us. They're not like chimpanzees. They're not like gorillas. They're really like people. But one difference is their mouths. Right, their mouths are more like gorilla mouths. Yeah, not really gorilla mouths, but closer to gorilla mouths than our mouths, right? So their mouth wasn't like ours, not like modern Homo sapiens. They're looking at skulls and things like that, right? Looking at bones. So they probably couldn't speak like us, right? Because they just didn't have the lips and the teeth and tongue positions to do that. So they probably couldn't speak like us. They probably couldn't make many sounds. Yeah. So that would be a problem for communication. But Dan says, right, many languages have very few sounds. Like the Pirahang, they have very few sounds. You don't need many sounds to have a language. To make a word, for example, you have a symbol, right? A symbolic word. You don't need many sounds. Pirahang only has 11 sounds. Don't forget, right? So you don't need so many. So maybe, right? Maybe Homo erectus could do it. And also Dan says that, for some languages like computer languages, you should just have two things, right? On and off, 1 and 0. That's it. There's just two things. So you don't need more than, maybe even two sounds is enough for a language. So they may have had language, right? They may have at least one word, right? Or a few words. Maybe they didn't have grammar the way we have it, but maybe they had a few words. And I think probably before these guys, our human ancestors were coming up with words to communicate. But anyway, Dan thinks they had language. Chomsky says no, right? They had nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. Universal grammar comes in about 200,000 years ago. These guys are just monkey people. And I think, well, why were they standing up straight? Why did they look like us? Their body shape. How could they make boats, right? If they're just monkey people. And even their mouths are changing from gorillas, becoming more like ours. They built villages. Now we have evidence for this. They lived in communities. They must have had fire. They must have been cooking. And we think, well, they have no communication skills. They cannot communicate. Is it really? Anyway, they were organized, right? They had communities. They had organized communities. Organization, planning, and symbols, you'd think, right? They probably had symbols, didn't they? I mean, maybe one or two words, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Maybe they were speaking a little bit. Because otherwise, why would their mouths be changing so that when we become modern humans, our mouths have changed so we can speak perfectly, no problem? How did that happen? How did that evolve? If these guys are not speaking at all, right, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, think about what you need for language. Again, this is what Dan says. What do you need for language? You just basically need symbols and grammar. Right? If you have a word as a symbol, and then if you can fit them together in a certain way, then you have grammar. So that's all you need. Maybe 2-word sentences, maybe one word. I don't know. Right? Who knows? Just guessing. Don't forget there are 3 kinds of signs. Just review this very briefly. 3 kinds of signs. This is semiotics, icon, symbols, and index. This is important, so I'm going to review this. Smoke is an index. It's an index for fire. You see smoke, you know there's fire. A footprint is an index of a person. If you see a footprint, for example, like this, you know there's a person there. Animals can read indexes. Animals know if there's smoke and things like that. They know things have been there. But they probably don't do this. Icons, things that look like things, physical resemblance, the icon. This looks like the Mona Lisa, looks like the person, looks like a person smiling. It looks like something. So it looks like the Christian cross, looks like an actual cross that they killed people on. Yeah. So it looks like something that begins as an icon, something that looks like something, or maybe sounds like something. And then the cross looks like this thing, it's an icon, but then it becomes a symbol, right? It's used, it looks like the cross, it looks like this wooden cross, but then it's used as a symbol. It becomes a symbol of, say, for example, Christianity. What's a symbol? Symbol is where there's a cultural connection. Okay, I'm just reviewing this again. I'm going to keep doing this because it's important. We just decide on the form or meaning of the connection. And there's no direct connection with the thing. So the number 9, for example, doesn't look like anything, doesn't have any natural meaning of 9. We just decide it. Doesn't look like anything. It's just decided in culture. And some, you know, so some cultures don't have this. I mean, so the Piraha don't even have numbers, so they don't have that. So anyway, you start with icons, probably. That'd be the most basic. Animals can do this. Sorry, indexes, animals can do this. Icons, probably only humans probably can do this. They recognize those. And then when we have culture, we have these symbols. So you're deciding things in culture. So all animals have indexes, smells, physical contact, etc. And it's probably been going around for about 5 billion years or so, a long time. First icon maybe 3 million years ago. That's 3 million years old. Like a funny smiley face. Maybe, right? That's what they think. It seems that early humans looked after this thing. They thought it was important. So they could tell it looks like something. The first icon, maybe. Yeah, emoticon, right? Icon. Anyway, icon looks like something that looks like an airplane to us. Looks like something we recognize, looks like a speaker. Probably only humans recognize this. Maybe not all humans. If you have never seen an airplane, you don't know what that is. If you don't have electricity, you probably don't know what that is. But we recognize it as a picture of something. So what's a symbol? A symbol is where you've got a cultural connection. This is an icon in a sense. It looks like a mountain. You know which mountain? It looks like a mountain in front of the sun rising, maybe. What's this, a lake or something? I don't know. And then this is an icon. You recognize it, but it also symbolizes something. In this case, it symbolizes a country. It's a cultural connection. It symbolizes deep cultural meaning. This is an icon. You recognize the picture. It's a student who graduated. Looks like a student's graduating. It's an icon. But it can symbolize other things. It can symbolize education. It can symbolize intelligence. It can symbolize hard work. Maybe other things. So symbols. And let's say you see a spade, right? So here's a picture of a spade. That's icon. Looks like a spade. But so maybe it's an index for someone working, right? It's a direct sign that somebody is working there, maybe. Here's a spade icon. Looks like a spade. An icon may symbolize something. May symbolize hard work, for example. May symbolize that people are working on the road, mending the road. This isn't a true icon, right? This tick is not a true icon. It doesn't look like anything, actually. Oops. Doesn't particularly look like anything. It's not a picture of a thing. It's just a symbol. And, you know, some cultures don't use that. We decide its meaning in culture, right? So in Western culture, we just decided this tick means correct, for example. It's a symbol for correct. This is also a symbol for correct in Japanese culture. When I first came to Japan, I saw people doing this maru thing all the time. I thought, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Strange. Well, it's because it's just decided in culture. This is a symbol for good. In Western culture, has different meanings in other cultures. This is not really an icon. It's a symbol. It doesn't look like anything particular. It's not really a picture we recognize. It symbolizes money, right? It symbolizes money. It symbolizes Japanese money, or maybe a bank, that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's just decided in culture. It could be money exchange, for example. Lots of things it could be. Now, Dan says, all right, to get back to Dan, he says just symbols is enough for language. Just use a symbol, right? Just a symbol. Just need a cultural connection. So once you get culture, once culture starts, then maybe you can have a symbol and maybe you can have language, right? So the start of culture. For example, I'm going to miss this, right? You've got these different symbols. You think about how it means. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm running out of time. Yeah. Okay. Don't want to do that. Now, what about this? Dan says order isn't important. right? Basically, if you put walk I, right? Walk I. Right? You get the meaning of that. It doesn't really make any difference, even though it's the wrong order. Just symbols is enough for language. And, once you get culture, starting, then you can have symbols. And once you have symbols, you can have a language. If you have culture, you can make a word. If you don't have culture, you can't really make a word. Just putting symbols together, order doesn't matter. Right? At the beginning of language, order isn't really important. It's a very simple merge, right? Just put two things together. So they probably had language. Yeah, I think they probably did have language. Right? They were cooking, they had fire, they had little villages, they were organized. They seem to have a culture. And I think maybe they had language. They could build villages, for example. They were organized. We don't know. I wasn't there, right? But they seem to have organization, planning, and symbols. Yeah, okay. Why not language? It's possible. I think maybe before these guys, they must have had language. But there's still a problem, right? How do we get from gorilla mouths to human mouths make lots of sound? Yeah. How did that happen? How did mouths change? And also, they changed from before, right? So when to get to the Homo erectus, the shape of their mouth was changing, becoming maybe better for speaking, even for these guys. And then later, it gets better and better and better. Now, this guy, Richard Wrangham, right? He's another anthropologist. And his idea is that fire was very, very important. Right? Cooking. We controlled fire and we can cook. We can control fire so we can sleep on the ground. We don't have to go into the trees. We can sleep on the ground because we have fire to keep the animals away. We can have little communities and we can start cooking in those little communities, right? And we can make our food nicer and softer and easier to chew. And also we get more calories from it. And this allowed changes to happen, not just to our mouths, but we get bigger brains and our body shape is able to change. So 2 million years ago, we controlled fire. And probably before that, so before Homo erectus, human ancestors probably controlled fire. And we started cooking, right? We started cooking. And probably the women were doing the cooking and the men were doing the hunting. And probably that started off really early. So you get this culture, you get this split, right, of division of labor. Right? So the men are doing certain jobs and the women doing different jobs. And you get culture developing out of that. And we're cooking and we can get softer food, easier to digest, easier to get calories from, easier to get energy. So we get more calories from food. We get more calories from food and our brains can get bigger. Right? We can eat less because we get more calories and our stomachs, our bellies can get smaller. And it makes it easier for us to stand up straight. So we're on the ground, we're standing up straight, we've got smaller bellies, we've got bigger brains, we're hunting these animals, and we're maybe communicating. Chimpanzees spend all day chewing food. They don't have any spare time. They're just chewing hours and hours and hours. We could spend less time eating. Right? We can get our food, just cook the food, eat it, get the calories we need. We can spend less time. We have more time for other things like hunting, for example. We got smaller stomachs because we can digest the food more easily. We can run around because we're standing up straight and our body shapes is changing. We're not in the trees anymore. We're on the ground because we have fire. We can keep the animals away, even if we're on the ground, even if we're not in a cave. We don't go into the trees anymore. We're using our legs and running around. And we got bigger brains because we can get the calories more easily. We get bigger brains. We can eat softer food. And because of that, we're eating softer food and we're communicating. The shape of our mouths could change so it becomes better for speaking. Right? We don't have to like chew all day long, really hard stuff. We can get that, eat softer food, and then it becomes easier for the shape of our mouths to change so we're able to speak better. And our brains are getting bigger. We're living in culture. We've developed a culture around this fire and these communities, little villages. And we're just making up, starting with symbols. So anyway, this is the book. He says that fire is very important to the development of culture, and I would say probably fire allowed culture to develop, and therefore symbols to develop, and therefore language to develop, probably before Homo erectus. So here's 200,000 years ago, modern humans, our mouths are perfectly evolved for speaking 200 to 300,000 years ago. How could that happen if there was no communication, if nobody was speaking before that? Right? If nobody was speaking, no symbols, no words, nothing, right? Nobody was speaking. Why do we have perfect evolution of our mouths for speaking 200 to 300,000 years ago? How did that happen? How could that change happen? That change could only happen if we were already trying to use language, and this was an advantage in our culture. Otherwise, there'd be no change. It just wouldn't change. So I think early humans must have been controlling fire, making culture, starting communication, starting language, the use of symbols well over 2 million years ago. And slowly, as we get better and better and better at communication, which helps us to hunt and live our lives, slowly our mouths evolve so that we're able to speak. But anyway, that's my idea, that we evolve for speaking. Okay then, guys, right then. So that's that. I'm going to just quickly make clear that the magic word is erectus. Okay, that's the magic word. Magic word, magic word, magic word. Right? And let me just go out of there for a moment. Oops, that's wrong. Let me just get rid of that. And I'll just go to that's there, right? Good. So student magic word is there. And the magic word for today is erectus. Let's see if I can go into this. Here we are. This is actually it. Let me just check that to make sure you know that. There is the magic word is erectus. That's it. Not bibbidi bobbidi boo. Okay, it's erectus. It's not bibbidi bobbidi boo. Okay, right then. So that, guys, is that. Okay, any Great. Okay, so I think we got no problem. Don't seem to have any questions or anything in chat. So if there's no questions, guys, everybody okay? Everybody's okay? Give me a sign if there's no problem. Yes, okay, good. Got a sign. That's nice. So in that case, then, guys, I'm going to close it down, let you get on with the quiz. Do your best. As I said, try it, right? Don't just to put in like funny crosses and things like that. Do actually try it. You can do it as many times as you like. Okay then, guys. So if there's no questions, I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay then, guys. Right then. So we got 8 people in there. Any questions? I expect you're just having a cup of coffee or something. Okay then, guys. Right. So I think we don't have any questions. So I'm going to close it down. See you next time. Bye-bye.